Today I'm going to be talking about healthy boundaries and how self-protection and self-empathy is a part of that. So, what are healthy boundaries in general, and how in my life have I learned to say yes or no regarding how it feels? So, important is there should be healthy boundaries around that which gives us hope and optimism, that which we're grateful for, what increases our listening, like we pay attention, nice words. Respect and mutual empowerment is a big part of what healthy boundaries is. It is not playing abandonment games. It is not guilting, controlling, or projecting, because there are separate wounds. My wounds and my problems are not yours. So if that's the understanding, then you respect my energy because I have my own wounds and my own problems, my own healing and fixing to do. It should not be just distraction, listening, loneliness to the other. I don't mean listening I mean being a verbal punching bag. Just listening to whatever they tell you about your reality because it fits their role or their perspective. Or that's the dark side of it, or the positive side of it would be which also is not too healthy, would be I never really tell you about myself. I'm just always interested in hearing about you. So that's not a relationship. There's no separation there. It's just me and your bubble. So the way that we kind of treat ourselves in our bubble is how we treat the other outside the bubble when we bring them into our bubble as a version of us, and how we project on them what they're worthy of. So if we project on them that they're more worthy of us than us, then we forget what self-respect is, which is you have to communicate and maintain consequences. How do you know about consequences? Because you spend time and see what's appropriate or inappropriate for me in a relationship. If you don't know yet, then you are a beginner. You're starting. What I allow shows what I tolerate, and sometimes you can't tolerate it. You have to leave the relationship. I'm speaking about this very casually, and I know how painful it is and how much I cry when I grieve over endings, but this is what self-respect includes. My self has to live, so I cannot make someone else's self be in my bubble, causing my whole bubble to go down. It's too heavy. So it's really about working on ourselves every single day to day. It makes a big difference. At first it's work, definitely, to like in a relationship, maybe it's familiar. You're you already saw all the glittery stuff, and you spend so much time with yourself, you don't really know how to see the beauty. But if you were with somebody else, you may say it's so much easier to see their beauty and their glittery stuff, but eventually it gets old also. So it takes the kind of work and focus, not work, dedication and focus, what should I be doing for myself? And it's an inner conversation of self-love, these words that we tell ourselves. And then this bubble that we have means that when something's unpleasant, we can recognize right away it doesn't feel good. We leave the disagreement or the interaction and communicate why and what, and say, this is stressing me out. I have had a long day. I'm going to have to talk to you more about this tomorrow. And instead of shutting down or guilting or trying to make the other one feel like too much, because why were you interested until now if it was too much? It's not real, right? It's just about forcing or draining. That's not fulfilling a commitment. Forcing or draining means if you act the way I want, then I'll be attentive, and if you don't, then I won't. And then the other person has to become like a vessel for what you want. They take away their own self. And we do this to one another when we don't have healthy boundaries. So healthy boundaries also means you got to check in with yourself. I have to say, what do I want? What do I need? like a parent. What do I want to be made to feel? And then I can go outside of myself. Sort of, not necessarily with expectations, but for the inspiration, for the motivation. I want to feel this way. Let me make connections with people where I feel more like this. Or I want to feel more confident and believe in myself. So let me be with inspired people who see their own strength and their own energy. And then there's ambition. You want to be with people who are going further ahead in life, or resourceful people. I want to be around people who don't believe they're always the victim. They could figure out ways to take care of themselves. So healthy boundaries is is like a mixture between codependence and independence. It isn't either one. It's saying, if you're not ambitious, you're going through a rough patch, I could be there for you. Because I'm not going to, want to abandon myself, right? I don't leave myself just when it gets hard. I'm still with myself, and that's opportunities to practice love. Same with others. That's opportunities to practice love. But we also need to make sure that, we're not making someone else and their problems or in being in their bubble too much, because you can't have your own friendships and validate yourself if you're so busy revolving around somebody else. Your identity becomes enmeshed with theirs. And us who have vulnerabilities towards this, often we didn't care about our feelings because we were taught not to. We punished our own weakness, and these very vulnerabilities, we tried to hide them and repress them and force them not to be there. And we were always afraid or hypervigilant of being caught or being outed or exposed. So in this way, when we gently emerge, instead of like thinking, we could hide it forever, gently emerge to ourselves, we realize that this is in us all along. Our relationships point us back to ourselves. We walk each other home. And in self-protection and self-empathy, we start to invest in those who invest in us. There's a healthy give and take in the beginning stages, and that's the foundation for friendship or dating. I mean, healthy walls should be up. And I make this mistake sometimes if I don't truly get to know someone first, or take the time to see if it's appropriate for me to share certain things. But I'm working on it. Another aspect is we got to actually say yes to those who say yes to us. And it's different in every case. It doesn't mean just because they pick up your groceries for you or your laundry doesn't mean, or switch the laundry to the washer doesn't mean you have to do that too. But it's basically, you say yes to those who say yes to you because you don't want to say yes to people who don't say yes to you. You don't want to say yes to somebody who doesn't really ever be there for you. And that means you're sending the message you're free. You don't need to be earned. Your friendship's not valuable, your relationship. And it's not that you have to prove and play hard to get, but you can't be somebody who does in order to be more than less. If I don't do all these things, then I'm less. And this disrespects myself. It's like a shelf we have ourself on, and if we put all these other things on the shelf and then we say, see, look who I am, you're not really saying that you on the shelf matter at all. That's the idea. A lot of it is also learning how to respond, not react. This is a fundamental value shift, which is that we don't need to emotionally react to everything for our own sake. In other words, meeting someone else at their level, regardless of what they're doing, isn't respecting my shelf. I go to your shelf because you're saying I'm on this shelf, so I go to that shelf. But a lot of us have not learned yet how to not get entangled with other people's wounds and how they have a hold on us. For example, people hold on to us. This is the tactics they learn. Children do this. It's innocent. It's not something bad. It's just people nitpick. They deliberately try to confuse. They lie. They gaslight, which is like invalidating, deferring, passive-aggressive, silent treatment. I mentioned earlier a couple things like rejection and abandonment. That goes here too. Any defense mechanism that's punishing or abusive or manipulation or takes without giving, reacting to that gives it power. Every time you give in to a child, in other words, give them attention for what they're doing, they do it more. And some adults really are still walking around with these childish emotional tactics to get the other person to meet them at their level. But when we learn how to verbally communicate in a healthy, effective way, we get to respect ourselves, and it's the most loving. And actually, we're telling the other person, with our action, you have a right to do this too. And the boundaries are for ourselves. They're not to punish somebody so that they learn their lesson. It's so that we don't feel bad. I'm only responsible for my behaviors, my beliefs, my opinions, my emotions, my responsibilities. And you might say, well, these emotions afflict me. These responsibilities afflict me. But you get the choice of whether or not you're going to suffer through it, make it fun for you, do it tomorrow, do it today. There's a lot of angles we get to have. Now, if the emotions just come, you get to decide if you're going to let them pass through or if you want to hold on to them and suffer more. It's not taking on the drains and the negativity of others. And even if it's very tempting, which for me it often is, not engaging is this key. The healthy boundary is that your choice of how you want to engage with people is up to you. Rudeness, emotional abuse, disrespect, not engaging with it is control of myself. It is not getting easily controlled by others. My reactions themselves don't so easily rile me up, right? And now moving into respect, you have to realize you just know when you've been disrespected. Intuition tells us. Even if we don't grasp exactly what happened, what it is that isn't healthy or manipulative or abusive, I don't want to feel bad. It makes me feel bad. We can then move into what makes me feel respected. As adults, we have to recognize, which it's very difficult. And anybody who personally struggles with this can join a group like ASCA, which is adult survivors of child abuse. And I've had to lean on their meetings sometimes for my own sake, not like I'm doing a program, but just because I needed it. Because sometimes we don't even remember that we're not supposed to feel bad. And when we do feel bad, we think, oh, I'm not worthy of feeling better. So there's this, all this that we put on someone else's worthiness about respect has to start from within. Because if you yourself don't look at yourself, that your time and efforts matter, your opinions are worthy to be listened to and considered, that you have acknowledgments and praise that you deserve, that you're trusted to handle and understand complicated things, discrete things, and you're not made to feel inferior, that you're not seen simply as a sex object, or that your sexual energy is taken through dishonesty, whether you're a man or woman, that you're not made to feel that what you do or say is not enough or too much, that you're not being contrasted and compared constantly to others, that you're not considered weak or needy because of who you are, rather than them actually being in a relationship with you and adopting new beliefs or evolving new behaviors to be in relationship with you. And finally, when someone doesn't only want to connect when it suits them or when they need something, a lot of us were raised with that being normal. We simply don't know better. A lot of us were violated, disrespected. We didn't learn to feel worthy or trust or respect ourselves. So in this work, our self-esteem and our self-talk needs the work. So how we speak to ourselves and how we validate our feelings and how we help ourselves to navigate out of the doubts or the self-putting ourselves down so that we actually respect ourselves, that is the same way we will treat others. There's no way around it. I'm not beating around the bush. We need meetings. We need supports. We need to learn how to talk nice to ourselves. Why? Because our inner talk we're going to see people as a means to an end, that we own something, that we're entitled. We're not going to think their time or efforts matter unless you do it for yourself. You cannot actually revolve around someone. It'll just be an endless cycle and you'll get disappointed because your need is to respect and love yourself and you're trying to do it through somebody else. So it's not healthy self-respect, self-empathy, self-protection. The ego and the learning is to say no or to choose to put myself first is like, sure, we do need to practice people pleasing. I want relationships. And it may be scary for those of us who don't know the boundaries. So it's important, can they do this for themselves? Only if they can't do it for themselves, should we say it's necessary? Like, building a relationship means sometimes pleasing the person. It's not a bad thing when we love someone to make them feel good. We want that too. So in learning how to make ourselves feel good, we actually naturally want to honor those close to us in the same way that we honor ourselves. And so this is a very healthy passage. It's a rite of passage. I love myself. I respect myself. I now can have more love and respect live in me. Just doing a small thing for somebody with love and respect will make up much more value than constantly doing every little thing they need, and they end up feeling they can't do anything for themselves, and that they always feel a little like indebted to you and therefore may try to lower you. It's not a healthy we're each given what we can handle. In other words, we lower ourselves when we think we're not good enough on our own, and we're always looking to fix and help. But like I said, empty vessel can't give. So it's like, why are we doing this? It may be an escape. It may be that it also leads to inappropriate expectations, like I mentioned. But more importantly, we become easily manipulated and go out of our way for specific investments for people. And we forget to check in, which I said is key. We forget to say, we might think others are also not good enough on their own. We may invalidate their feelings. And so basically a little ego is good, but there needs to be healthy boundaries. So we need to do that check-in and say, is this what I really want to do? Now maybe no. Maybe you don't want to eat healthy that day, right? It's hard. And what do I want to do for me instead? So I want to indulge. Maybe I could make a meal for myself with love. And in serving myself and honoring my body temple and eating something delicious and crunchy and sweet, and maybe in Ayurveda, it's a good way to finish this video, is to say, In Ayurvedic medicine, I'm not going to finish here. I'm going to talk a little bit more about. I'm going to talk more about this topic tomorrow. There's a little more I want to go into, but I think tomorrow I'll include it with another portion. So I'll finish with this. Ayurvedic medicine, we say that when you balance and you get a little bit of everything, you don't want a lot of one thing. If you get a little bitter, a little sweet, a little salty, a little astringent, if you cater to all your needs, your mind, your body, your heart, on every level, you have different types of friends. You do different types of things for different people. You're not the go-to person for this thing. You know, you don't do your work that you get paid for. You don't do it for free for everybody so that you have friends. When you catch these patterns, you can tell yourself, you know, a little bit goes a long way. A little is a feast, actually. But only if you're not trying to do, you know, for the other person's sake. Like, if you're trying to give the other person all of these little bits of things, you don't know if it's pleasing them. You got to do it for yourself first. So that's where we're at now. We're doing for ourselves first, and I look forward tomorrow to sharing more and similar topics. Have a blessed day. Bye bye.